All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. Hopefully everyone has come in. If not, I can try to add them. Okay. Huh, weird, it doesn't pop up like it usually does. Let me stop sharing for a second, okay? All right. Yeah, I'm also a professor. I'll talk to you about all of that. I hope no one else joined because I can't see anymore if you have, so. Okay. Actually, let me just check one more time to make sure no one else joined. Yeah, no one did. I don't want to leave anyone out accidentally. I'll check again in a sec. Okay. I don't want you to see this one yet. Okay. So, hi everyone, welcome to English Major Orientation. My name is Erin Hollis, and I'll introduce myself to you a little bit more in a minute. I am happy to, okay, where did the chat, okay. I'm happy to answer questions, but as I'm the only person in here, I'm going to just have times for questions, like little pauses for questions. So please don't put questions in the chat until I ask, just because I probably won't be able to see them as I'm talking to you, okay? But we have 2 hours together. The way that I'm going to handle this is the first part of the orientation will be me going over the major, introducing you to the department. We'll have some general discussion about the major as well. Then we'll take a break because I think breaks are important, and sometimes you have to get some more water or do other things, right? Like a 5-minute break. And then we'll come back and I'm going to do a little mini class for you. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but you'll be learning my favorite author with me. So that should be fun. All right, so just to give you a bit of background on myself, my name is Erin Hollis. I'm Dr. Erin Hollis. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Studies for the Department of English, as well as an Associate Professor. You can call me Erin, Dr. Hollis, or Professor Hollis. It's good for you to find out what faculty want to be called. One thing that tends to happen to female faculty is that we are often referred to as Mrs. And that is not a cool thing. It happens to women more than men. So just be aware of that. And if you don't know what to call someone, always just default to professor, right? Just something to know. I am the main advisor for undergraduate students, and I'm always happy to help. I specialize in 20th century literature and pop culture, and my favorite authors are Virginia Woolf and James Joyce. We'll be talking about James Joyce today. And my contact info is right here. I'll share this again at the end, but you can always email me at ehollis@fullerton.edu. And then my appointment advising link is calendly.com/ehollis. This is my dog, by the way. And that's me holding him. His name is Ducky. He used to go to class with me because I used to live on campus. Anyway, he's sweet and adorable. He might make a cameo because he likes to wake up while I'm working all the time. He's blind. So yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so moving on. I have some questions for you, and you can feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand function in the in Zoom, or you can put your comments in the chat. So why did you pick English? Why pick an English major? What about English attracted you? I'm just curious. And there's not a right or a wrong answer, by the way. So I want to become Jake says, I want to become an English teacher at the middle school or high school level. That's a really popular reason why people choose to major in English. So I'm sure a lot of other people have that as one of their reasons. Any other reasons? Would love to become an English teacher. I love to read and I want to become a professor in English. I've always loved storytelling and the power of words. I'd like to become a professor and I also love to read. I love reading and studying language. I want to become an English teacher as well. Wow, you're like, blowing up the chat. English was always my favorite subject in high school. Me too. Same, I really enjoy analyzing works as well. I would like to teach English overseas. That's cool. My focus is creative writing and I want to become a novelist and possibly get into the writing team for Disney. That's really awesome. Studying to become a librarian. Yeah, so you have to get your master's in library science. Hold on, I'm admitting someone. Enjoyed creative writing, want to become an editor. English has always been your strongest subject. Want to become an English professor. English allows you to be creative. These are all really good reasons for wanting to major in English. And note the variety. So I have another question for you. When you tell people that you're going to major in English, what are some common responses that you get?
That song from Avenue Q.
What do you do with a BA in English?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that song. I think it's hilarious. Yeah, so what is your backup plan? Why? What can you do with that degree? Eye roll. Can you read my essay? Hey, that's a pretty nice response. Oh, you're going to be homeless and wasting your potential. People have told me that going to a fancy college is not worth it if I'm just going for English. Writing is not a stable career. English is hard. Oh, really? That's an interesting one. Usually it has the reputation for being easy. Ugh, good luck. Your family is super supportive, but strangers have not been rude to me yet. I was always told it was a very difficult degree. Yeah, John Mulaney did that too, except now he's famous because of writing. Have you seen his comedy, his stand-up where he talks about majoring in English? John Mulaney, I have a huge crush on. I just have to tell you this. And he talks about how he spent all this money just to read books. And I think it's pretty funny. I don't agree with him, obviously, but my favorite part that he does in that stand-up is when he talks about the horse in the hospital. So yeah, I love that guy. I follow him on Instagram. He has a cute little dog. I don't know if you've seen his dog. If you haven't, I think her name's Petunia. Yeah, nice. Anyway, so we had all sorts of responses. Any other things that people say to you when you tell them that you're majoring in English? Why? I'm pretentious. Does anyone ever say, oh, so you're going to teach? There's kind of an assumption that the only thing you can do with an English major is teach, which, by the way, nothing wrong with that because I'm a professor and I love teaching. But people usually assume that's the only thing you can do with an English degree, right? And then what was the other one? Oh, people often say to me, I already know English. And I'll be like, cool, all right, bye. So the reason why I ask you this is because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about English. First of all, there's this idea that you can't, this last one of the last ones where Marcos said, why not choose a career that you can actually make a living with? There is an underlying assumption that the English major is not a major where you can get a very good job. And just to address that up front, it's not true. Statistically, English majors make more money when they go out into the world than business majors. So it's kind of a lie that people perpetuate that you can't earn money as an English major. English is a degree that is as versatile as you let it be. We have former students who work in a variety of positions. We have someone who works at Nickelodeon. He worked on Legend of Korra as a producer. and he works on a number of other shows at Nickelodeon. We have another former student who started a nonprofit called Dress Member, and it's for, it raises money to help with preventing human trafficking. And she was featured, I was in Ireland, and she was featured in British Glamour. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my former student. One of my best friends who's a former student owns a bookstore in San Diego called Mysterious Galaxy. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but you should all go, you know, give them your money. I'm just joking. And we have so many different things that students do. Yes, of course, we have students that teach. But again, it's really based on what you can imagine that you do. And we do have a lot of students who teach overseas as well. And then the other thing is when people sort of say that all these things to you about the English major, they're ignoring the fact that majoring in English also helps you learn how to be a kind person, a better human, even though I'm sure you're already all great humans. But it helps us learn how to be in the world. I've always thought that the sciences especially would benefit from taking some English classes because it would help them think more broadly about the effects of what they're doing. I don't know, what do you all think about those reactions that people have to your major? I'll give you time to type. I think they are very short-sighted and focused on career-based outcomes of an English degree. Often the people telling me I'm wasting money and time are the least empathetic people I know. They probably failed English and are bitter. Yeah, they're just misinformed. Yeah, usually if you kind of have a nice conversation with people, you can change their mind. Yeah, as long as you're doing what you love, you're good. I like that idea. So I just wanted to give a little pep talk about English because so often it gets sort of stomped on and criticized for being something useless, I guess is a way that people think about it. But Oscar Wilde famously said, all art is quite useless. And when we focus too much on the use value of a thing, we forget to recognize its beauty. So I think that's something to think about. Any other thoughts on that before we move on? Or reflections? No? Okay, let's move on. The English department is a very welcoming place. It's very difficult right now during our current time to get the feel of what the English department is actually like, but we have a lot of really nice faculty and our curriculum is carefully thought about in order to help you learn about English from a variety of perspectives. And you'll see this when I go over the requirements. Does anyone have any questions so far? Probably not. I haven't really talked about anything that you would need a question for. No? Okay, let's move on. All right, so I kind of want to introduce you to the faculty in the department, but obviously they're not here with me. This is actually the beginning of our fall break. So like most of the faculty weren't available, but if you can go to our website to sort of see our faculty. Can you see this when I clicked on it? Did it pop up? No? Okay, never mind. I'll just go back to this because I don't want to mess with it. If you go to english.fullerton.edu/faculty, you can see a list of the different faculty in the department, and it will say what they specialize in. So I don't know what you're interested in, like different aspects of studying English. For example, as I told you, I teach 20th century literature and pop culture. I also teach Irish Lit. Other faculty are going to have other specialties. So if you're really interested in studying something, here, I'll type the link in the chat. There you go. So you'll see pictures there of all of us, my picture. So pop culture can be in English as well. I teach a class on comic books and I teach a class on Harry Potter. Although the Harry Potter class, this might be the last time I teach that, just for reasons related to J.K. Rowling. So, hey, that's really good information, Ryan. Thank you for sharing that. American Studies and English are very closely linked with each other. In fact, I always tell students if they need like a GE class to take American Studies classes. I'm pretty biased. Their offices on campus are around the corner from ours. So they're all my friends, right? But they do a lot of cool stuff. One person in there does a lot of stuff with video games, but I kind of want to create a class on video games as literature. I think that would be pretty cool. I'm obsessed with Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. So that could be a whole class, don't you think? If you know it. Yes, a comic book course. I haven't taught that one in a while. I'm taking a break because I share it with someone else, but it's usually offered in the fall. We'll talk more about courses. Yes, you do get a week off for Thanksgiving. At Cal State Fullerton, we have fall break and it's the Thanksgiving week. It's the only school I've ever been at where I've gotten a week off. A lot of places, like one of my best friends teaches at Fullerton College. He's actually a former student as well. He's a professor there. So if you went to Fullerton College, his name is Roger Perez. I don't know if anyone knows him. But in any case, they don't get off the full week. He has to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah. Used to work for DL. Oh, you had him, nice. So it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the faculty in the department. And you shouldn't feel uncomfortable emailing faculty if you have questions about their classes. Now, don't email and ask for the syllabus like way before the semester because we tend to be procrastinators. Hey, much like students usually are. So we might not have it done yet, but you can always email them to introduce yourself. We had a meeting just yesterday and I was thinking about how kind everyone in the department is. So I'm not affiliated with Mount Sac. Sierra, you asked me that privately, but no. People often tell me my name is familiar, interestingly. Anyway, all right, let's move on. So in the department, there are basically two paths you can take if you are an English major. Just before I move on, are there any complet majors? I don't think there were. If there were, if there are, can you pop a quick comment in the chat? Yeah, I don't think any complet majors. So we do have a complet major in the department as well. It usually has about 3 or 4 students in it. It's a pretty small major. The English major is pretty big. There's about 150 students that graduate from the English major every year. The department is huge because we teach English 101 as well. So I'm going to go over the English major requirements versus the English education requirements, which is called the SMPP or SSMP, or sometimes it's called the SSPP. So if you hear any combinations of S's, M's, and P's, that's probably all the same thing. I don't know why it gets called so many different things, by the way. The requirements are slightly different. So what I'm going to do is I have slides for each of them that sort of summarize the requirements for each of them. And then I'm going to show you the advising sheets and talk about it more specifically. So we'll probably do this kind of slowly because it can be a little overwhelming. Okay, so for the general English major, you have to take 42 units, which is 14 courses. Foundational courses include English 300, which is analysis of literary forms, which is an introductory course. You should all sign up for this for the spring. English 3, and I'll repeat this later, but English 300 is an introductory course, and there's 3 sections being offered in the spring. and they all still have spots in them. So you'll easily be able to get into English 300. English 307 is a writing course. It's advanced college writing for English studies. There is one section that is still open, which is very rare for this time in registration. So there's 7 spots left. You don't need to feel like you need to take that this semester, but if you can get into it, it's not a bad idea to take it. And then you also have to take English 316, which is Shakespeare. Shakespeare fills very quickly, and you might have to wait a little while to take it. So that's just something to think about, right? You also have to do survey courses. Survey courses are broad courses that cover a wide range of literature. We have survey courses in British literature, American literature, and comp lit. Comparative literature is the same thing as world lit, but you need 2 of those. But most of you probably will be coming in with some of those from your transfer institution. Usually these transfer in and you've already met the requirements. The only exception to that is if you've taken World Lit, it doesn't transfer because ours is upper division. Also, Shakespeare doesn't transfer, just so you know. You have to retake it at Cal State Fullerton. In addition to those courses, you also have to take Chaucer or Milton. English 315 is Chaucer, English 317 is Milton. You have to take English 303 or 305. These are grammar and language courses. You have to take period genre criticism courses, including one prior to 1800, and then 3 elective courses. I'll talk about some of this in more detail in a minute. The 3 elective courses are any English, Comp Lit, or linguistics course numbered 201 or above, excluding 301 and 498. But you can feel free to, you should probably do above 300. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. And then finally, you have to do a senior seminar, which is English 494. So the senior seminar is something you take either in your last semester or your second to last semester. I'm going to share with you the advising sheet for the general major now. But before I do that, does anyone have any questions? Milton is Paradise Lost, yes. Any other questions?
Just to clarify, you said if you take Chaucer, you don't need to take Milton?
Right, you only have to take one or the other.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Yes, so if you took a survey Brit Lit and a survey American Lit, then you're most likely good. You can tell this when you look at your TDA. If it's listed there and there's a green check mark, then you've met that requirement. We have a creative writing minor. We don't have a creative writing focus for the major. So if you wanted to do an English major with a creative writing minor, that would be a good idea. The other option would be if you wanted to do all of your elective courses as creative writing. I'll talk about the creative writing minor in a minute, though. Any other questions?
I just had a quick question on like unscheduled classes, because a lot of the classes on my TDA that I'm looking at taking are unscheduled as of right now. Is there like a rough date estimate for when they are going to be scheduled?
No class, you mean where it says TBA?
No, so like for example, queer literature and theory, it says not yet scheduled when you go to like the course, so it doesn't show any class sections. Is that just
that means it's not being that means it's not being offered this semester.
Okay, cool. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, CSULB does have a creative writing department, so just something to know, but I do think we're better than them. But that's just me. Some classes are, that's a good question. Was that Jenna? Yeah. Some classes are offered every semester and some are not, right? So English 300, 307, 316, all the sort of core courses are offered every semester, But then some of the period genre criticism courses and some of the elective courses are only offered once a year. And some elective courses are only offered once every 3 semesters or so. So if you see a course offered, hold on, Jake, I see your question. But if you see a course offered that you really want to take it, especially if it's an elective course, because it might not be offered again while you're a student. So that's a really good question. All right, so Jake says, sort of piggybacking off that question regarding TBA, for the dates and times when registering for English courses, some of the classes state both TBA as well as Wednesday 2:30 to 3:45, for example, and then say web fully online instruction for the room. Do these classes require meeting at that time or are they fully online? I just need a little clarification. So if it says TBA and web fully online without a meeting time, that means it's asynchronous. That means you won't ever have a Zoom meeting time because in the spring we're fully online. We don't have any in-person classes, right? So if it says that, that means it's entirely asynchronous. You don't have Zoom class meetings. If there's a meeting time, that's when the professor is going to require you to attend Zoom sessions. So that's what that meeting time means. In the future, when hopefully we're back on campus, because no one in the English department likes teaching online. Kind of. Everything is sort of loosely defined right now because of COVID, to be honest with you. So in any case, hold on one second, Jenna. So once we're back though, all English classes that are required for the major will be in person. We don't do online English major classes typically, just FYI. And Jenna says, I just wanted to double check because I didn't see it listed on the PDF that I downloaded from the HSS website. Would English 350 Lit and the environment count as an elective course? Yep. I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I'm actually going to share with you that sheet that Jenna just brought up. And Lit in the environment is offered in the spring and it still has spots in it. So can you see this sheet? Yes? Okay, awesome. Let me get the chat back up. It keeps disappearing on me. Yeah, the hybrid thing, it doesn't really matter. So for example, all my classes are both synchronous and asynchronous. So I guess they're hybrid, right? I'm sorry, I can't make this bigger, but you can find this sheet at english.fullerton.edu/advising. And then if you click on the link that says undergrad advising, and then scroll to the bottom, all of the advising sheets are there, right? So this is what I just described to you for the English major with more detail. So it will list the classes that we have, right? So here's the survey classes, for example. Here's like the names of other classes that were on that list that I gave you. The period genre criticism classes, including one prior to 1800, which is listed here in the parentheses. And on the back are a list of all our electives. Now you see how many electives there are. We have quite a few, right? And they include everything from creative writing, California fiction, intro to African American studies, the class that I teach on Harry Potter, which still has spots in it if you're interested in it. If you are, it's going to be the last time I teach it. So I recommend you enroll. And other classes as well. So this is all of the electives. But I do need to point out, and this can kind of confuse students sometimes, that if you took 3 of these courses, because you're required to take 3, and then you decided you wanted to take a 4th one, the 4th one would also count as an elective. So if you meet all the requirements, I will explain cross-listed in a minute. If you meet all the requirements listed here, and then take an extra one, that will count as an elective. Does that make sense? It wasn't? It should work.
Yeah, it didn't work for me
Yeah,
either.
yeah, it said it like wasn't available or something like that.
Well, try going
Wanted
to
make sure I
English.
did it right.
I might have mistyped it. Try going to english.fullerton.edu and then click on advising. Did you get there that way?
Yeah, it works if you just go to the, if you just search that.
Yeah, and then you can get there. I probably just assumed it was advising and didn't double check. So cross-listed means that a course is cross-listed with another subject. So we have a lot of courses that are cross-listed English and Complit. They count as both. Or if you wanted to take a Complit class, it would count as a course for English as well. We also have some courses that are cross-listed with other departments. We have like an African American Lit course that's cross-listed with AFAM studies, for example. If you want to take it, you can register for either section and it will count for the major. So you don't really need to worry too much about cross-listing. It should be okay. All right, so does anyone have any questions about the advising sheet overall or things I need to be more specific about? Sometimes I'm a little, because I do this so much, I don't realize what questions you might have. So what other questions do you have?
I just wanted to double check that these classes weren't, I don't know if this is kind of stupid, but I don't want to accidentally retake the classes from like community college. So none of these, like the 200 courses, right? We've never taken those in community college, right?
These you might have.
Oh, okay. So we got to be careful about that.
Yeah, so the survey courses, and if you're unsure, you can make an appointment with me and we can double check.
Okay, thank you.
The max unit limit. Can you tell me what you mean a little bit more by that? Like for the university? We don't have a max unit limit for the major. You just have to take 42 units. If you stay at the university too long, they will start trying to make you graduate though. The university is really big on making people graduate quickly. I'm going to tell you some secrets. There's no one else here to like hear, right? Because we get money based on that. Like if you graduate more quickly, we get more funding. However, if you think it's better for yourself to go through your classes slowly and to take maybe 4 units a semester rather than 5, there's nothing wrong with that. Graduating quickly only means you graduated quickly. Now, it does save you money, so that's something to think about, but don't push yourself if it's going to break you, right? By the way, I'm also the mental health liaison for the department, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about this later, but if you ever need help in terms of that, let me know. All right, so Doria asked, did you mention that the lower level classes could not transfer to the CSUF? No, they can. 211, 212, and 221 and 222 can transfer. 324 and 320, Complit 324 and 325 cannot. And then Ryan says, I just switched a few times on majors, so I have quite a few units. Oh, you should be fine. I've seen students with like 180 units before when I've done their grad checks. So they can't make you graduate until you meet all your requirements. And if you haven't met all your major requirements, they can't do anything. So, all right. We can take courses from the SSPP and the academic worksheet if they are the same. I'm going to make a recommendation on that in a minute. So hold off on that, Giselle, okay? Any other questions? So this is basically what the requirements are for the major. The SSMP or SMPP, all of the letters, right? Is a more specific thing that still meets the requirements for the major, which I'll go over in 1 second. Yes, you can choose to take the lower division courses at a community college and transfer it over. It's cheaper.
I have a quick question about the electives portion.
Mm-hmm.
So at my community college, I took Survey of British Lit 1 and 2. And so those count as my introductory survey courses, but they also count as my elective course. So I just want to make sure that wasn't like a mistake.
Are the courses both the same courses counting in both category?
Yeah,
your
it
TA?
says on my TDA.
That's a mistake.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So
They just, I don't know why they did this right before our spring transfers in orientation. They just updated the TDA system, so it has a few glitches. Yeah. Jake says, we'll talk about crossovers with upper division GE requirements too as well, right? We don't typically talk about that, but the courses that are upper division GEs are Complet 324 and 325, as well as a whole bunch of the electives, including classical mythology, which is Complet 315, and the Bible is Lit, which is Complet 312. There's so many of them, I can't really list all of them, but you can figure that out. Any other questions? I'm going to stop sharing this and go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so that's the general English major. I'm gonna, and Ryan says, I might be one English course short of my transfer degree. Will I be unable to transfer? That is not a question for me. That's a question for admissions and records. I can't, we don't decide those things in the English department. If you can't contact them or if they're not responding, let me know and I'll intervene for you, okay? All right, so that's the general English major. So for the SMPP or SSMP, which is the single subject matter preparation program, this is what you would do if you want to teach high school or junior high. If you want to teach at a community college or at a university like I do, you don't need a credential. I don't have a credential, right? So just know that. You would need to get either a master's to teach at a community college or a PhD to teach at a university if you want to teach major level classes. So just know that that's a slight difference. Who could guide you through the registration processes concerning the classes I should take? They're the student success team. I can tell you what classes you should take for the major. The student success team can help you with the other classes that you need, Daniela, if that helps. All right. Okay, so for the SMPP, the required course, so basically if you follow this, and I'll show you the SMPP advising sheet in a minute. If you follow this, you will meet all the requirements for the major. So you should only look at the advising sheet for the SMPP if you're going to apply for a credential. And don't look at the other advising sheet because it can be confusing. Sorry, my dog is jackassing around beside me. So he's distracting me. English 301 does not count for any major. It's not a major course. It's for only for non-majors. So it's very different. That's an upper division writing requirement for non-majors. Okay, so the required major courses for the SMPP are English 300, that's the same as the major. English 316, that's Shakespeare, right? And English 302, which is a course that's only for the SMPP. If you're not on the SMPP, you take English 307. If you are, you take English 302. So don't take both of those. Sometimes students take both and it's really confusing to them. For the regular major, you would take 2 surveys of British and American Lit. But for the SMPP, you have to take 3. So that's one difference. So one elective gets chosen for you. In addition, you have to do 1 comp lit survey. So comp lit 324 or 325. Like the major, you have to do Chaucer or Milton, 315 or 317. You have to do both English 303 and English 305. So English 305 will count as one of your electives. You have to do the same 3 period genre criticism courses, including one prior to 1800. That's the same as the major. And then you do English 434 instead of the senior seminar, and this would count as your senior seminar. Additional required courses on the SMPP are an HCOM course from the list, which I'll show you the list in a minute. And a lot of you probably already took this at your transfer institution, like public speaking or a theater course, and also a theater course from the list. And then there's some collateral courses listed on the back of the sheet that are secondary education courses that if you take them, you don't have to take the CSET, which is a really difficult test that we recommend that you don't take. It's better to take the classes than to take the CSET. There are never other author elective courses offered. We don't have them. I mean, nice. I think it's cool that you saw that, but we've never had. The reason why it says that is sometimes students will transfer from another university and we might count something from another university. We are changing our curriculum, but it will be a couple of years away. All right, do you have any, I'm going to show you the advising sheet for this in a minute. Yes, this is the plan if you want to teach high school or junior high. It is not a different major from English. It has more specific rules, but you don't have to declare it as a major. You don't have to declare English education. Does that make sense? Are there any other questions about this? All right, I'm going to stop sharing and show you the English Ed advising sheet. So this one is also available on the website. Hold on. Trying to get the chat back. Okay, this one is also available on the website. It says English education majors. So you need an HCOM course. Most of you probably took HCOM 102, and then you need a theater course. Theater 310 and 311 are the ones I usually recommend students take if they haven't already taken a theater course that is one of these. This is a typo. It should say 160, so don't freak out if you already took that class, right? And 310 and 311 also count as upper division GEs. So you could take those and meet that requirement as well. Here's where it says that you have to take 3 of the American and British lit surveys instead of 2. In the Comp Lit survey, English 302, English 300, both 303 and 305, English 434, which is young adult lit, Shakespeare, Chaucer, or Milton. And then 3 of the courses from this list, including one of the ones with the dot next to it. And then these are the collateral courses that if you take them, you don't have to take the CSET. So that's that advising sheet in a nutshell. What questions do you have about the SMPP? Oh, just to clarify, the credential is not something you earn by following this. This is what you have to follow in order to apply for the credential, which is something you do after you graduate. So it's a post-bac year where you take classes on learning how to teach and you student teach. So you graduate with your degree in English and apply for, usually in your last semester of your undergrad, you would apply for the credential program for the next semester, and it's an additional year, if that makes sense. So what questions do you have about this?
That one's if you want to teach English, right? And then
If you want to teach high school or junior high, yes. But not if you want to teach at the community college or university level. All right, so Jake says, hopefully this isn't too far off topic, but typically speaking, what are the likelihoods of being added from waitlist right now as we are virtual right now with COVID? I wouldn't sign up for a class that has a waitlist because we typically have not seen anyone dropping our classes. There's a lot of classes still open, and the ones that are still open are the ones that you should be taking because they're more introductory anyway. Yes, I can explain more what I said. So these classes right here, EDSC 304, 310, 320, 330, and 340. If you take 304 and 310, you don't have to take the CSET, which is a test that is very difficult, right? And then typically you need to take these as prereqs to get into the credential program. So you should try to take all of them. No, these are not the extra year classes. The extra year classes are different ones that are a higher level class. So any questions you have about the credential program, you should address to the Center for Careers in Teaching, by the way. So when you're looking on the schedule, do you mean, Jake? Like the schedule of classes. Secondary education. I know that makes absolutely no sense because you would look for it under E, but it's secondary education. It's confusing. You're welcome. Any other questions? Does this make sense?
I have a question.
Yes.
So for this worksheet that we're looking at right now, I'm an English major. So I would just like pull up my TDA and kind of just check off what I've already done
Mhm.
with this list. Okay.
Yeah, and you can do that with the other one as well. But if you are one of the students who wants to enter into the credential program, only look at this sheet.
Okay.
Don't look at the other one. You will get confused. Also, your TDA might confuse you a little bit too. This sheet is where all the answers are.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions about the major stuff?
I don't have a question. I just have a tip. So I don't know how well this would work for everyone else, but at my community, I just set up an Excel spreadsheet and I separated the classes I needed to take in order to transfer. And then for my major and like our transfer plan itself. And it was so helpful. And for me, the TDA was really confusing. So I encourage everyone to do that and just like I color coded it by when I'm taking it, and it was so much more helpful than just like looking at the TDA.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys can figure that out, I recommend it a lot. It's so helpful.
I think that's a really good idea, and thank you for the tip. Thank you for putting the link in there, Karen. That was really helpful. I was about to answer that question. And now I see I needed to say academic advisement. Thank you for helping me out. And then, yeah, the TDA can be very confusing. This is also one of the reasons why you're more than welcome to make an appointment with an advisor, including me. There's three more advisors that you can also meet with, all equally as knowledgeable. But I'm the one who takes complicated things. So if you have a complicated case, come to me. But in any case, we can help you interpret the TDA as well, because at first it can be very confusing. Also, one thing to tell you, and Jake, I see your question, and Giselle, hold on one sec. One thing to tell you is that at your community colleges that you went to, you might have had a lot more sort of guidance in terms of your educational plan. We don't do that at the university. We allow you more freedom, and sometimes that can be frightening to students. But it's okay. We're there to help you still, but you're gonna sort of make the choices a little bit more and have a little bit more of the responsibility on yourself. All right, so Giselle says, there's no advising next week. We're on holiday. In fact, we won't even be answering email. So you'll have to wait until the following week. If you email me, I'll respond because I feel bad. So that's a quick answer to that one. So Giselle, if we choose to bypass the credential and just go for the master's PhD, can we go back later and get the credentials later on? Yep, you can. Although it's usually recommended that if you want to teach high school or junior high, you get your credential first, because if you have a master's or a PhD, it's harder to get hired because they have to pay you more. So, but that's really your choice. If instructor is listed as staff, when will we know who the instructor is? Does this sometimes mean if there's low enrollment, it might be canceled? Nope. When it says staff, that means it's a part-time faculty member. The ones who are listed are full-time tenure track faculty members. So we're the people who teach in the major typically. So if it says staff, it's usually going to be 101 or 301. It doesn't mean it'll be canceled. It just means their contract hasn't been signed yet. And then Emily, I'm not sure if this is a question for this group specifically, but who do we talk to about adding a minor? Well, I will talk to you in a second about adding a minor. So let's put a pin in that. Any other questions? I'm going to stop sharing this, go back to my PowerPoint. Any other questions? I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. All right. Just as a side note, you don't need to remember everything I've told you today. If you forget something, you can make an appointment with me and I'm happy to go over it again, okay? All right, so some recommended major classes to take in your first semester. As I said, English 300. You should all register for English 300. It is the introductory class. Any remaining survey classes that you may need and other open requirements. Currently, there are a lot of classes open, so you can feel free to take any of the open ones that you need, but I would recommend taking the lower division classes before the upper division classes, right? So the 300 level before 400. But if there's a 400 level class that you really want to take, feel free to register for it. Any questions about that? Financial aid will be available. So staff works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of Thanksgiving week. Faculty do not. We seem spoiled. I'm just joking. I actually have to grade during that week, so it's not like I'm like, you know, eating bonbons and whatever. Maybe I'll eat a few bonbons. I don't know. Anyway, any other questions? By the way, if you contact financial aid and you cannot get an answer because several students have told me that they can't, please let me know because I'm keeping a list because it makes me very angry. They should be helping you. But yeah, feel free to try to contact them. Any other questions before we move on? The rest of the stuff I'm going to try to do kind of quickly so we can take a break. Okay, we do in the department have creative writing and comparative literature minors. As English majors, you can minor in both of these. I'm not going to go over the requirements, but if you took beginning creative writing at your transfer institution, you would only have to take 3 more courses to do a creative writing minor, right? And for comparative lit, you'd only have to take 4 more courses. Comparative literature is like studying literature from around the world. So my contact information was there at the beginning and I'll show it again at the end. So if you need to contact me, I'll show you. It's also listed under the English advising, yeah. I'll show it again to you at the end though. To declare a minor, by the way, when you declare a minor, you're going to get a scary letter that says your transfer agreement has been canceled. That letter is meaningless and should not frighten you away from doing a minor. They just have to send it to you, but it's not going to change anything, okay? It really is misleading. To declare a minor, you have to go to records and registration, and they have forms there, and you get the declaring a minor form. You fill it out, you send it to me or another advisor, we sign it, and then you send it back, and it costs $10 if you want to declare a minor. If you want to declare a minor in the English department, like creative writing or comp lit, that would be who you would contact. If you wanted to declare a minor in another department, you would need to go contact the advisor from that department, get advising on the minor, and then have them sign that form. So I think a minor is a good idea. My minor was philosophy when I was an undergrad. And there's a lot of different minors out there, right? So history, journalism, cinema studies is one, right? So there's a lot of different minors that you can do. Any questions about minors? I'll just go ahead and put my email here right now since we're pausing. That's how you can contact me. Okay. We do have several department clubs, and I just want to mention them briefly. One is called Sigma Tau Delta. All right, Ryan says, are minors typically made up of lower division courses or upper division courses? A combination of both, usually more upper division. Almost all things are going to be upper division when you transfer because you've already done all of your lower division requirements. So Sigma Tau Delta is an English Honor Society. I was in it when I was an undergrad. I think there is a specific list for minor requirements. I don't know who the history advisor is, but you would just look on their webpage to ask to see who the advisor is, and that's who you would contact. If you need help with any of the specific finding minor stuff, feel free to make an appointment with me and we can do it together too. We have a creative writing club. They do a journal every year where they publish writing from around the world. The Acacia group is a grad student club, but if you are interested in going to grad school, it's a good one to take part in. And then we have the science fiction and fantasy club, and they do a yearly zine, and they have other things that they do as well. So those clubs are really awesome. Right now, I'm not sure how they're exactly functioning, but just for you to know about. And then we have several department scholarships. The scholarships are always due in the spring, the applications. We have one called the JEVID. Type that right here. The JEVID is $20,000 that we get to divide up among all the students who apply. I've been on the scholarship committee for years. I'm not on it anymore, but typically around 10 people apply and we give as much as $5,000. And it's based on financial need, not on your grades. But it's not based on financial need like how the FAFSA defines it. You know how the FAFSA sometimes makes it seem like you don't have any financial need when you have a buttload of financial need. This is based on our own sort of reading of your situation. So the JEVID is one really good scholarship. Again, look for that application, a notification in the spring. We also have another scholarship called the Kimberly Ann Holloway Scholarship. And that one is for a former student, named after a former student. It's $500. It's based on academic excellence. And only one person gets that one. And then we also have the Dream Scholarship, which is if you are undocumented. And it's only if you're undocumented, right? And I'm trying to think, I think there's one more. We have a new scholarship this year, but I don't think it's been set up yet, but we got a huge donation. So we have a lot of scholarships available. I'll give you a tip. Students don't apply for scholarships. So you should apply for scholarships, right? Any questions about scholarships? Oh, one last thing. I thought there was one more slide in this part. I saw someone mention that they worked with Roger Perez at the Writing Center at Fullerton College. We also have a writing center. Nice. And if you want to work at it, it's a really good way to get experience. And applications are usually due in the spring as well. So that's something to look for as well. They're still running. They're doing all of their appointments virtually. So it's pretty cool. All right, any questions overall before we take a break? Sometimes they will waive the having to take the 300 level classes. It depends. If you're taking them and you're in the process of taking them, sometimes they'll waive it too.
I have a question about the scholarships.
Yes.
If it's due in spring, would that not go towards the next semester that's coming up? Like if we're going to be in spring, would the scholarships not go towards that?
They would go towards fall.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. It takes a long time. You probably have learned this already being in community colleges and coming to the university. Money takes forever to process. Like you always have to wait for your freaking money. And I feel like they need to be better at that. That's just my own 2 cents, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get accepted for financial aid, so like I'm like gonna have to make payment plans. So I just didn't know if the scholarship would apply to that. So
yeah, unfortunately, but you can use it. Like we don't really track what you do with it. So if you wanted to use it to pay off something that you use to pay right now, you could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I have a question that I'm not sure if you might be able to answer, but I'll still ask anyways. When I got accepted into the university, there was a
a $250 fee. If for whatever reason, as you mentioned, the money takes like forever to process and everything with the financial aid and tuition is a little high. If let me see how I can word this. If I don't start spring semester and then I start fall semester, does that 250 not count then? Will I have to pay that 250 again for fall semester, or will I have to apply again?
I don't know. That would be a question for the student success team or for admissions and records.
Okay,
I'm
and
sorry, I can't help.
no problem. Another quick question: the payment plan for tuition does that have interest, or do you? I don't know if you can answer that either.
I don't know. Does anyone else know? I don't think it does.
Okay, thank you.
Honestly, I don't really deal with the money, which I'm glad for. Because that's stressful. But if you can't find someone to answer your questions, feel free to email me and I will try to connect you with someone who can, okay?
My sister used the payment plan at Cal State Fullerton for her last semester,
Mhm.
and I don't believe you accrue interest, but if you don't make your payments, they will just drop you from your classes
Oh,
wherever
yeah.
you're at.
They definitely will do that and then you're screwed. So be careful. Yeah, that's definitely a good tip. Will, I love your picture of your cat, or the cat picture you have, side note.
Thank you.
All right, so Marco said, quick question just to clarify for myself, would we have to wait until the semester begins in order to contact the department advisor if we want to declare a minor? I would wait until then, just because they might not be able to process your paperwork until you're actually enrolled. And then Jake said, if it's allowing us to add classes to the shopping cart, does that mean we don't have a hold on registration, or would a hold pop up when selecting finishing enrolling? Yeah, that's when the hold will pop up. You all have holds right now because you haven't finished your orientation with me yet. After you finish orientation, which will be after we do our next part, you'll get that hold removed. But I was informed this morning that you might have an additional hold if you haven't sent in your transcripts yet. So if you haven't sent in your transcripts, you're going to have another hold that's not set by the college, it's set by the university. So make sure you send in your transcripts as well. But if you have sent in your transcripts, you should be able to enroll after our orientation today. Any other questions before we take a break? I think that it's that immediate. That's what they told me. I don't have the power to lift holds. They try not to give faculty too much power, you know. Yeah, you won't have the hold removed until after orientation. So it might be sometime this afternoon. I think that they go across and just remove all the holds for all of the students who are enrolling for the spring. Any other questions? All right, let's take a 5-minute break. And when we come back, we're gonna do like a sort of mini class, just so you get a taste of what classes might be like. Well, classes with me anyway. All right, let's take a break and then we'll come back, okay? I'm gonna turn off my camera for a sec. 5 minutes. All right, we'll give everyone about 1 minute to come back. Once you're back, maybe you could give like a little thumbs up or in the reactions thing. Looks like a lot of people are back. All right, while we were taking our little break, did any other questions come up for you before we move on to talking about James Joyce?
I was just wondering, do you know if some of those course numbers are wrong on the PDFs? Because I've been looking at like the searching for classes, and it's like the Shakespeare one, I think it says 316. I think it's actually like 416.
No, 416 is a different course.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So 316 Shakespeare is closed.
That's probably why. Okay. All right. Thanks.
So if you want to see all of the courses that are offered, you can unclick the show open classes only thing when you search.
Got it. Okay.
And that will give you an idea of what the course offerings are like every semester, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. And 416 would count as an elective. It's taught by Kay Stanton. She's an amazing Shakespeare person. I love her. She also has the most amazing style. Like, she dresses up in theme for the class that she's teaching. So like she'll wear like, she teaches Milton as well. So she'll wear like stuff with snakes on it. She's pretty awesome. Your high
Also,
school English
I'm sorry.
teacher. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I just really quick going back over since I can enroll today. So your basic recommendation is just start with the 300s and go low to high to get accustomed. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And if any of you are unsure about what you're enrolling in, you can always email me and just I can double check for you too. So Sierra, your high school English teacher, has a cardboard cutout of Joyce in his classroom. Nice, nice. I'm a huge Joyce fangirl, I will say. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. Quick question from Cami. If I took World Lit at my community college, would it not cover? Nope, because they're 300 level. The university will not allow 200 or 100 level classes to count for 300 and up classes. It's sort of out of our hands. Does the attendance today mean the college only has 26 or so English majors join the college for spring 21? Yes, that's pretty normal for the spring. Most of our admissions are in the fall. And we're a pretty big department. In fact, our major has been growing over recent years. So I have the GPA and UNIS verification hold. How long is this going to process so that way I can roll for courses? So unfortunately, they told me this morning that that's the hold that we don't have control over. And that's the one where you have to send in your transcripts. And it can take 3 weeks. I'm sorry, if I could do something about it to make it go faster, I would. Any other questions? No? All right, so moving on to our little mini course. They wanted us to give you a taste of what it would be like at Cal State Fullerton, and we were offered many options. And of course, I chose to talk about Joyce because he's my favorite. So how many of you have encountered James Joyce before? You can do I see hands up. You can put like you've seen his love letters? Oh my gosh, his dirty love letters. Yeah. If you want to have a fun old time, just go look at the love letters. Unfortunately, yes, I think they're funny. Very briefly, not enough to remember. Many of you might have encountered him with his short stories. Araby is often taught, or The Dead. So if you took surveys, you might have encountered him there, especially a British Lit survey. He wrote Dubliners. Yes, he wrote Dubliners. That's where all his short stories are. Yeah, I love the story Araby. He was an Irish author writing in the early 20th century. and considered to be quite experimental. And he got increasingly experimental as he went. So the stories that you read are his least experimental thing. And then he wrote Ulysses, which is takes place in the space of one day, June 16th, 1904. And it's thought of to be one of the most difficult books ever written. But he was like, hold my beer. I'm going to write an even harder book. And so that's what Finnegan's Wake is. So what we're going to do today is sort of think about how to read this difficult book. Don't worry, you don't need to know anything about Joyce or anything about this book in order to be introduced to it, okay? So we're gonna start by talking about the title. So this is the title, Finnegan's Wake. Do you notice, hold on one sec. The chat disappeared on me again. If it could just stay, that would be great. Okay. When you see this title, Finnegan's Wake, again, you can comment in the chat or feel free just to unmute yourself and talk as well. When you see this title, do you notice anything about it? Yes, no apostrophe. Yeah. There is no apostrophe in Finnegan's Wake. People often mistakenly put the apostrophe there. Why do you think he would take out the apostrophe? What does an apostrophe usually indicate? Wake as in wake up or funeral wake. Yeah, we'll talk about that more in a minute. Being edgy, I like that. No possession. And I really like the idea. He is really a big fan of like questioning the whole idea of possession. It's not his own, right? It gives it more meaning, like it can mean in more different ways when he removes the apostrophe. And that gives you a kind of tiny little clue as to what he's up to in the wake. Joyce scholars call it the wake. They don't say Finnegan's Wake. So we're going to play a little bit with the title. Someone already said this, but what are some meanings of the word wake? And Ryan already said wake up or funeral wake. A wake is a funeral, right? Especially in Ireland, but wake up as well. Can you define wake, the waking up of wake, without using the word wake? Anyone? Arising from sleep. Yes. To begin anew. Yeah, it's really every time I teach this, and by the way, I teach this a lot, to become aware. I like that, to come to your senses, transitioning to not sleeping. These are all great. Every time I teach this and I ask for the definitions of the word wake, people say to wake up. Isn't that interesting how we automatically define it with like the word that defines it? There's one more meaning of the word wake that we haven't mentioned yet. Does anyone know? Behind a wave, right? Yeah, so an aftermath, like when people say in the wake of a tragedy, that's a wake, right? Or the wake of a boat, right? Sort of the aftermath is another way of thinking about it. When Joyce wrote this book, he intended all of those meanings at once. So all of those meanings are, you can't dismiss any of those meanings. So when you read the wake, you have to be able to hold 3 or more meanings in your head at the same time. So let's think about the word Finnegan's. Finnegan is a very common Irish last name. Finnegan's Wake is actually the name of a song. It's about a guy who falls off a ladder and he dies, but then gets whiskey poured on him at a funeral and he wakes up at his funeral. It's a pretty funny song, to be honest. But one of the things we can do with Finnegan's is find other words in it. You can't scramble the letters. Think about sounds and words you can see without scrambling the letters, and words in other languages. So what words do you see in Finnegan's? Fen, like the fin of a fish. This book is quite funny, actually, which we'll talk about. So fin again, right? So fin, like the fish fin, but also fin as in end in French and Spanish, right? So end again. In fact, the book never ends. The last line is the beginning of the first line. So the last line of the book is away alone, a love to last along the, and the first line is river run past even atoms from swerve of shore to bend of bay brings us by commodious vicus of recirculation back to Hoth Castle and environs. So the book never ends. So the fact that it says end again is kind of interesting, right? Do you see any other words in or hear any other words? Beginnings. Yeah, I like that. Nice. Anything else? The name Negan, like from Walking Dead. Yeah, you know, Gain is in there, definitely. Funny story about The Walking Dead. I can't watch that show, but I was kind of fascinated by whatever the thing was that happened with Negan, but I don't like the violence. So I watched the Lego recreation of that Negan scene just to see what happened. Fine, Gain, yeah. The comics are pretty good. I haven't read them. I'm not a big fan of zombie stuff, but so many students try to get me to read it. Maybe I should. All right, so Finnegan's, we've seen all those words in here. Yeah, I understand. It's hard when a favorite character gets killed off. So to get back to Finnegan's though, it's okay to be distracted by things like The Walking Dead. But in any case, what you have to do with a word like Finnegan is see all the words that it contains and hold all of those in your mind at the same time. So that gives you a clue as to how you have to interpret the wake, is thinking about how there's words within words, thinking about how all the words mean differently, and sort of being playful about it, being willing to play and have fun with it. All right, so before we move on to the next slide, do I have a volunteer who will read what's on the next page? A brave soul. Ryan, are you volunteering? Okay, you're going to turn on your microphone, right?
Yes. Hi. Hello.
Okay.
Is it working?
All right, so I'm going to go on to the next page and I'd like you to read it. Okay.
Yes. River run, past even atoms, from swerve to shore to bend of bay, brings us by a commodious vicus of recirculation back to Hoth Castle and environs. Sir Tristram, Villor de Amares, for over the short sea, had Castelcour re-arrived from North America on this side of the scraggy isthmus of Europe Minor, who whaled fight his peninsulate war. Nor had Topsawyer's rocks by the stream O'Connell exaggerated themselves to Lawrence County's Grigiours, while they went doubling their mumper all the time. Nor a voice from a fire bellowed just Maishe to tough Bouts Pietrick, not yet, though then soon after had a mad scab boot-ended a blind old Isaac, not yet, though all is fair in Vanessa, where Sauce Stairs wroth the Twan, Athan and Draw. Wroth a peck a pa's mouth had Shem or Shem brewed by Arclight and Rory end of the Reagan brow was to be seen ring some of the aquavites. The fall whatever that word is.
You have to say the whole word.
Okay. Dal gar ara glatachamin ron con bron honir ron hun var how aun shan
Good job.
Of a once well straight old bar is retailed early in bed and later on life down from all Christian ministry. The great fall of the off-wall entailed at such short notice the profund of Finnegan, In Ear's solid man, then Humpty Hillhead of himself promptly sends an uninquiring one well to the chat needs to stop. Can't read the words. Then the Humpty Hill uninquiring well himself promptly sends an uninquiring one well to the west in quest of his Humpty Tum toes. In their Umtump Pike Pointing place is the knockout in the park where oranges have been laid to rest upon the green since developing's first living.
Good job. Good job. So someone said, is it supposed to have an accent? I like how you gave it a little bit of an Irish accent, because I do think reading it with an Irish accent does help understand it a little bit. And yes, indeed, you did a great job. So thank you for reading that, Ryan. What are everyone's reactions to this first page of Finnegan's Wake? As I said, the first sentence is the end of the last sentence. So the last sentence is away alone, alas, loved along the, right? So what are your overall thoughts about this? And you can tell me anything, and I won't get upset. I've been dealing with reactions to Joyce for years. So hold on 1 second. So is the whole book like that? Yes. Beyond confused, nice. The disruption between nature and religious images, nice. All right, what else? Someone was going to say something.
If I'd been able to read that a bit slower, I bet I would have been able to interpret what words he was trying to say. Some of these at least. But I think some of these are just flat out like Violer d'Amores. I think that's French.
It
of some
is.
sort. So, well, no.
Yeah, you did a good job. And I have students read this all the time out loud, and I don't tell them what they're about to read. Like I like to kind of trick them, right? And you did a good job. Most people struggle a lot more than you. But Violer d'Amour is the name of an instrument, but it also means violation of love. So it sounds like a memoir, very interesting and confusing. There seems to be a musical quality or a rhythm. You would need a version with footnotes. And what does the very long word mean? We'll talk about that in a minute. In fact, there is a book that's annotations to Finnegan's Wake, but I have to tell you, you'd probably be disappointed. It doesn't help you make meaning of it because that has to, don't envy the audiobook narrator. It sounds like a satire, something like Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll was one of the inspirations for this as well. Joyce actually read some parts of this aloud, and you can find the recording of it and you can hear his voice. Other reactions, other thoughts about it? How did it make you feel when you were listening to it? Or reading it as Ryan was? Confused? Overwhelmed? Entertained?
I mean, I interpreted it as Irish, but I think that was a really valid choice.
It was a valid choice. Yeah.
Just a lot of the language used.
Like it was a totally different language. Yeah. There's a lot of different languages on this page, by the way. Yeah, a lot of people see Dr. Seuss. So Tumty Tum Toes is one of my favorite parts. I think that it's really awesome. I just like saying Tumty Tum Toes. Nice. Did it make anyone feel frustrated or annoyed? Went way over your head. Sorry, my dog is awake. So oftentimes it makes students very frustrated or sometimes annoyed, kind of frustrated trying to keep up. Anything else? The lack of space between words like Nathan, Joe was interesting. Yeah, that's the name Jonathan sort of switched around, which I'll explain. Seem more like a fun read that I can take in at surface level, but not really understand. It's like a riddle. Yeah, the book is over 600 pages long and the entire thing is like this, by the way. I've been reading it for years. Like I've read the whole thing many times, but I still don't understand it all. One thing I want you to think about as we talk about it a little bit more, is why would he write it like this? Maria says, I get frustrated because after hearing it, I'm still thinking and other people automatically having thoughts. I feel like I'm missing something. Yeah, nonsensical lyrics of the Jabberwocky poem. I think there's a lot of connections there to that. It is kind of like reading a book in another language. No, I did not have to take any language classes to better understand this book because you don't need to, which I'll talk about. I do speak French, so whenever there's a French thing, I can pick up on that. So I'll explain to you why you don't really need that though. What do you think this is about? Ongoing and stream of consciousness? Yeah, this is kind of more than stream of consciousness. What do you think that this page, are there any themes that you can pick up on? Or thoughts or ideas? What do you think, based on this page, the book might be about? The fall, like Paradise Lost, love, nature, religion. Let's pause for a minute on the fall. Why did you say the fall? Like, what falls do you see on this page? Yeah, Eve and Adam. Yeah, Tristram returning home from America. What other falls, though, do you see? There's Adam and Eve, switched around to Eve and Adam so that Eve gets priority of place because Joyce is a feminist. All Christian minstrelsy. So that's a good one. Humpty Dumpty fell. So that's one. The Great Fall of the Off-Wall, right? The other one is Wall Street. So this book was published in 1939. And in 1929 is when the fall of Wall Street happened. So the page includes a whole bunch of different falls. Oh yeah, the oranges rotting, that they also fell. That's kind of interesting. All right, so I'm gonna read it again. You've done a really great job so far, like picking up on things from it. But when I read it, I want you to listen and see what you hear and see if you can pick out anything else, okay? So here we go. River run, past Eve and Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us by a commodious vicus of recirculation back to Hoath Castle and environs. Sir Tristram, Valour Dunmore, for over the short sea had Passencore re-arrived from North Armorica on this side the scraggy isthmus of Europe Minor to wielder fight his peninsulate war. Nor had Topsawyer's rocks by the stream of Coney exaggerated themselves to Lawrence County's Georgios while they went doubling their mumper all the time. Nor a voice from afar bellows, Misha, Misha, to toff thou art Piatric. Not yet, though Vinny soon after had a kid scad but ended a bland old Isaac. Not yet, though all's fair in Vanity, where Sosie Cessers wrote with Twone Nathan Joe. Wrought a peck of Paul's Mont had gem or shin brewed by arclight, and Rory in to the Regenbrow was to be seen ringsome on the aquaface. The fall, ba 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 dal garag taka minarong kam bron ton tun ron tun thun truvar han onsgon to hu dur thurnuk, of a once well straight old pars retailed early in bed and later on life down through all Christian minstrelsy. The great fall of the Offal entailed at such short notice the shoot of Finnegan, ere solid man, that the Humpty Hillhead of himself promptly sends an inquiring on well to the west in quest of his tumty-tum toes. And their upturned pike point in place is at the knock out in the park where oranges have been laid to rust upon the green since Devlin's first love Livy. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of play on words in the alliteration. It's very fun to read out loud. I especially like that the Humpty Hillhead of himself promptly sends an inquiring on well to the west in quest of his tumty-tum toes. Shoot, could be a number of different things. I kind of like it. What kind of onomatopoeia? Oh yeah, Devlin's first does sound like Dubliners. Nice. Anything else that you heard or noticed? Yeah, so Finnegan falls. This is about someone falling. Nice. I like key smash to show emotion. Nice. Vinny soon is very soon. It's also venison because it's a sorry, my cat is having a moment. It's a reference to Jacob and Esau, and Isaac, and they give him venison, right? So there's a lot of biblical references on the page. Anything else that you hear or noticed? All right, so I'm going to tell you some stuff about the page. There are 5 main characters of Finnegan's Wake, and they're all on the first page. So the first one, the main character's name is HCE. Can you find HCE on the page? Howth Castle and Environs. So Howth is a place in Ireland, north of Dublin, by the way. It's beautiful. If you ever go to Ireland, you should go there. It's a like little fishing village. And so anytime the letters HCE are together in the text, that's a representation of the main character HCE, whose real name is Humphrey Chimpton Earwicker. He's represented as a giant, who I'll describe more about that in a minute. So he is here on the first page. He's married to his wife, who's named ALP, and her full name is Anna Livia Pluribel. Now, the letters aren't on the page, but can you find her? Like a reference maybe to her, to Anna Livia Pluribel? Yep, love Livy. So Livy is a reference to the Liffey, which is a river that goes through Dublin. They have 2 sons. Do you maybe see anywhere where those 2 sons could be? Do you see any names? Yep, Jem and Shem. So their real names are Shem and Sean. Shem is a writer, and Sean is a postman. So Shem is writing a letter that Sean is delivering. That's one of the storylines, right? And they're twins. So here where it says twone, that's actually another word for twin, 2 in 1, right? And then, so that's their sons. And then they have a daughter named Issy, or Isabel. She's hard to find, but do you see anything that sounds like Issy? Isthmus, yeah. So they're all on the first page. And in fact, the first page sort of describes them as the landscape of Dublin. So I'm going to share the whiteboard with you. So this is going to be a really bad picture because I have it. It's very hard for me to draw. So HCE is described as his head being at Howth and his feet being at Phoenix Park. That's the park at the end. And he's a giant that's laying down. So Howth is north of Dublin and Phoenix Park is all the way on the other side, sort of to the west. And there's a river that goes through it called the Liffey, and that's ALP, right? And then on the banks of the river are Shem and Sean. Sean is a tree, and Shem is a stone on the banks of the river. And then Issy is a little cloud that rains down to create the Liffey again. So basically, that's what the first page is describing in terms of landscape. Now, you might be like, what the frick? And I know that was kind of phallic looking, by the way. That's part of the joke. Joyce likes to make sort of untoward jokes all the time, right? So they're all sort of contained there. And this also kind of introduces all the characters and introduces the idea of a fall. So the main character, HCE, sort of went through a fall. And that comes up throughout the book, right? This long word right here, what do you think of this long word? Sorry, I got to get the chat back. Someone said it's like someone doing a key smash in frustration. It is kind of the sound of he made when he's falling, right? It's like an exclamation, a really long version of a comic book sound effect. It is sort of onomatopoeia, lots of O's. That's true. It's actually in the book, there are 10 words like this, and he calls them thunder words. And they're all 100 letters long, except one is 101 letters long. And it adds up to 1001. So it's a reference to the 1001 Arabian Nights. And they all sort of signal a change happening. This word contains a lot of words that mean shit and thunder in other languages, right? So there's so much more I could tell you about this page because it's full of meaning, but I want to ask, because of time, I want to ask my bigger question. Why would Joyce write in this way, do you think? Why do this? To be an asshole? To frustrate people? To flex his creativity? Maybe to obfuscate the meaning? Could get in trouble, what do you mean? To create multiple interpretations? Yeah, I think that's really one of the important things going on here. Anything else? In fact, I'm going to show you a demonstration of what someone did with the first line and all the meanings that the first line has. And you could go even further, by the way. So to show the difficulty of the characters through the difficulty of the text. Nice. Any other thoughts about why he would write it in this way? To show how his brain works. I think that's really interesting because, in fact, he partially wrote this book for his daughter, Lucia, who is schizophrenic, and he wanted to write it in a way that he imagined her brain might work, right? And so sort of creating this new language that respects a different experience of the world. That's how his thoughts come out. So I just want to say, Joyce said that if people read Finnegan's Wake, so this was published in 1939, as I said. He said, if people read Finnegan's Wake, World War II need not have happened. Now, that's partially a joke, because if they had read it, they would have been too busy to be doing anything else. But he also means that this text is profoundly anti-totalitarian, meaning all of our knowledge matters. So if Sierra knew something about one thing that I didn't know about, she would be able to voice that and help understanding of the text. And then if Jenna knew another thing, that would help everyone else's knowledge. So you have to read it communally. And everyone's knowledge is equalized as a result. No one person is placed above another person when they read this text. We're all put on the same level. Even me, someone who studies this book a lot, doesn't entirely understand it. And so it's a way of saying we all matter, and the way we interpret things all matter. And I would relate this back to English as a discipline, like really the way we think and the way we encounter a text is the most important thing and very valuable, right? So just to go back to what we started with. Yeah, I do teach a class on James Joyce for grad students, but we don't only do Finnegan's Wake. You could probably spend like a year on this book, to be honest. You'd have to have people that were willing to go along for the ride, right? But so any thoughts about that idea of his as it being profoundly anti-totalitarian? It's a profoundly democratic book. And I mean like democracy, not the political party, right? We all matter equally. So one thing that can happen with students is they always think that another student knows so much more than them, or they think that they think that they're less than someone, or they think that they're a fraud. This book kind of helps us to understand that all of our knowledge matters, right? Which I think is quite beautiful. Any thoughts or responses to that? Very cool. Really grounding, nice. I don't think he fully knew what he meant. And funny story, you can find a lot of stuff that seems like he predicted the future. He didn't, right? But it's just because it's so like the meaning is so obtuse. Like there's a part where it seems like he predicted Kennedy's assassination. Yeah, no random seemingly unimportant knowledge is unimportant. It kind of elevates all of our knowledge to a level of importance and makes us realize that we all matter. That's what Joyce is up to. All right, so that was Finnegan's Wake in a nutshell. And again, this is how someone read the first line. That was not me doing that. But just to end things off, here's my contact info again. My email, my Calendly link thing. You can go ahead and make an appointment with me. I will say my appointments tend to book pretty early. So just be aware of that. And if you encounter not being able to make an appointment with me, email me and we can work something out. So with that, does anyone have any final questions before I let you go? No? Cool. That means I answered all your questions that I needed to, hopefully. Welcome to Cal State Fullerton again. Welcome to the English department. We're really happy to have you here. I especially am. I love students. I love working with students. Oh, one last thing. If you're going through something in terms of your own mental health, please don't hesitate to contact me because I am the mental health liaison for the department and I can put you in contact with people that can help. And you're welcome. So if you don't have any questions, you are free to go. After today, they will lift that hold that was placed for this orientation. If you encounter any issues, let me know as well. And some of you I'll see in the afternoon because I know you signed up for some individual advising too. All right. You should be able to register at some point later today, I think. All right. I will see you all later. If you have questions, you can stick around. Nice to meet all of you. Bye.